Welcome to All-Rounder Musician Workshop. Hope you're having a very creative day, because today we'll be talking about how to write songs. So this is the very first stage of becoming a cool musician. If you want your songs to be somewhere out there in the world, on iTunes, Spotify, etc., first you need to write them, of course. So let's go. What you will need. Number one,
an instrument.
In my opinion, guitar or piano are the best instruments to write music with. Why? Well, because we can play chords on them. Talking about genres like pop or rock, pretty much every song consists of at least two melodies. The first one is a chord melody or a chord frame, right? So there are some chords being repeated in particular parts of the song, and the second melody is some melody on top of these chords. So for example, a vocal melody or a lead guitar part, and so on. And that's why we can play so many songs in acoustic versions, because we just need an instrument to play chords, guitar or piano, and our voice to sing, for example. Of course, you need to be able to play your instrument good enough. I hope this is a clear point. You need to play your instrument fluently and without thinking. So when you play chords, you don't want to think about how to play chords, but rather how they sound. Do they sound good in the composition with the melody or not? As for me, I started writing after maybe a year or year and a half of experience of playing guitar. So I think that would be enough. It will not work out immediately, but this is enough to start. Okay, what we need else? Number two.
An ear for music.
At first, let's find out what an ear for music actually means. Now, imagine yourself driving a car. Okay? And imagine at some point you have to shift the gear. When you're doing it, you're not looking on the RPM indicator, right? You just listen. You're listening to the tone of the engine. You hear the tone getting higher. And then you know, alright, now I have to shift the gear. And this is actually how we use our ear for music in everyday life. So having an ear for music is an ability to identify which note is higher and which note is lower. And also to recreate these notes. By recreating the notes, I mean that you can find a particular note on your instrument, or you can recreate it with your voice. To show you, let me take my guitar. Alright, so let's say I want to recreate the note on my guitar. I'll just hum a random note. And then I try to find it on my instrument. So here it is, right? So that's basically it. If you're able to do this, enough to start. To be able to say what fits in the music and what does not is totally enough. So to write our song, we'll create two things. Number one, we'll create chords, and number two, we'll create some melody on top of these chords. Here you can start two ways around. You can start with writing the chords and then the melody, or the other way around. So in this video, I'll be showing you how to write chords to an existing melody. So I already have a melody. I just came up with it 10 minutes ago. Really simple. Goes like this. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Okay? So step number one. Find your melody on your instrument. So I'll be using my guitar, just because I'm a guitar player. And I'll start with finding the first note of my melody. Lie, 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 lie. Oh, yeah, and I'll put a capo right here, because my guitar is tuned one step down. So this way it would be easier for you to understand where I play things, right? So this would be fret number 1 for you, 2, 3, and so on. Alright, so let's start. Lie, 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 lie. Okay, here it is. The first note is D. Let's move to the second one. Lie, lie. Third one. Lie, lie, lie. Okay, and so on. 2, find the key of your melody. So what is a key? There are different definitions for that. I would describe it as the most important note in the melody, or like the center note, which all the other notes are moving around. So to find the key of your melody, you need to listen to it and to really feel it. And then at some point, we'll start to hum and try to hum a note which sounds good in all the parts of our melody. So to listen to your melody, you can either play it and while playing, listen to it, or you can just record it on your phone. I'll play it just because it's easier for me. So I think this is D. Now, the key is always minor or major. To find this out, we'll just play a minor chord of a note that we found and a major chord, and then just find out which chord suits. So I'll start with the minor chord. So this is definitely minor, but I'll also play a major chord to show you that it just doesn't sound good. Just doesn't sound good, right? Now we found the key of our melody, in this case D minor, and now I'll show you the way how to find some chords. Alright, so what we have here is the fretboard of a guitar. We have our frets from 1 to 12, from the right to the left. We have our high E string or the first string right there, and our low E string or the sixth string right there. So for every song, you always have 3 available minor chords, which are represented by those red points on the picture. Now they're starting from the fret number 7, but for now just don't pay attention to the numbers. Pay attention to how the notes of these 3 chords are located in relation to each other. So in this case, the first chord is B minor, located on the string number 6, fret number 7. Now we find our second chord, going 5 frets higher or just 1 string lower, and there we have it. In this case, E minor. Next step, we go 2 frets higher or 1 tone higher and find our third minor chord right there, F sharp minor. So now we've found 3 minor chords, but we can also find 3 major chords. Those are represented by the blue points on the picture. If you notice, the pattern of major chords is just the same as the pattern of minor chords, but moved 3 frets or 1.5 tones higher. Now I say don't pay attention to the numbers, because this pattern can be moved all along the fretboard, so it could also be located on the 3rd fret of the 6th string. We are also not bound to the 2 top strings. For example, we could move 1 string lower and find the same notes right there. Now, to find these 6 chords for your song, all you need to know is your key note. In this example, these 3 minor and these 3 major chords would apply if our song was written in the key of B minor or D major. Now let's go through an example. Let's say our song is written in key of D major. We know that on the 6th string, 10th fret, we have D note, and we also know that the song is written in major. So that would be the first suitable chord for our song, D major. To find the second major chord, we would move 1 string lower and find our next chord right there. In this case, G major chord. Next step, we go 1 tone higher or 2 frets higher and find the last major chord right there. In this example, A major. Now let's find 3 minor chords that would sound good in our song. To do this, we move the pattern 3 frets lower and find our first minor chord right there. So here it is, B minor. Then we move again 1 string lower to find the second minor chord. In this example, E minor. And then 2 frets higher our last chord, F sharp minor. And the same 6 chords would apply if our song was written in the key of B minor. Then we would just start the other way around. We would start with finding the minor chords, then moving our pattern 3 frets higher, and then finding 3 major chords. So knowing the key of your song, you can find the same way 6 suitable chords with help of this pattern. Alright? And the last but not least. In this example, I had my G major chord located on the A string, 10th fret. Now, I would not play G major chord there, because it just would be uncomfortable. I would rather move 1 octave lower to the 6th string, fret number 3, and play my G major chord there. Now, if you don't know or you're not sure how to find particular notes on the fretboard of your guitar, you can also use this table right here. So for example, if we don't want to play our G major chord on the 5th string, 10th fret, we could also find note G on the 6th string, 3rd fret. To show it again, here we have an A major chord. Again, I would not play it there, on the 12th fret. I would rather move to the 6th string, 5th fret, or play it on the open A string. And this is pretty important to learn, because if you can identify where particular notes are located on the fretboard, and if you can play the same chord in 2, 3 or more different ways, that makes you a lot more professional player, right? Okay, so now we have 6 chords that will sound good in our song. 3 minor chords and 3 major chords. But this is not the whole story. There are also minor 7 chords and major 7 chords and dominant chords, which you can also use in your songs to make it sound more unique and kind of professional. But to cover this topic, I've made another video where I show you the extended version of this chord pattern. So check out the link in the description, and for now we're ready to move on. So using this pattern, we can find 6 chords for the melody. We'll start with the chord of the keynote, so D minor. Right? So the next note would be just 1 string lower, and this is G. Again, I move 1 octave lower, so from G right here to G right here. And this is the second minor chord. Right? And then we move 2 frets higher. And here we have the A chord. So again, 1 octave lower. So we have 3 minor chords. D minor, G minor, A minor. Now we move the pattern 3 frets higher, so right here. And here we have our 3 major chords. So the first one is this here. So this note is F. So I'll just move to the F chord right here. The first one. Then we move 1 string lower right here. So this is A sharp. So we have an A sharp major chord. And then we move 2 frets higher. And this is the last 3rd major chord, C major. And here you have 6 chords for your melody. Now just play around and experiment and just find out which composition of the chords you like the best. So I would choose these 4 chords. For your melody, you decide, you choose the chords. There are not so many, just 6 of them. So that's it for now. But what I also want to say is that this is my approach of doing it. I'm not saying this is the only single right way to do it. There are many of them. And this is one of the most wonderful things in music, as well as any other creative stuff. I hope you learned something. Write down in the comments below what is your approach of writing songs. Press likes, subscribe, and see you next time. And yeah, eventually the song could sound like this. Writing songs is simple. Play, listen and hum. It's not